Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Jonathan from Cheshire, England. Welcome, Jonathan. Jonathan
Hello, Dan.
has volunteered to share his story with my audience in the hopes that his journey will inspire and educate some other people and help you out on your journey to hopefully shorten the length of time that it takes for you to get better. So, Jonathan, welcome. Thank you for graciously volunteering your time and willing to pay this forward to the rest of the people out there.
It's a pleasure and it's great to touch base with you again after a couple of years
Right.
away because I've been had more things to deal with than working on TMS.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, at this point. So yeah,
So bring us on a journey. Tell us, a little bit about what brought you into this space. Did you have a series of symptoms hit? Um, what you did in the medical world, what you did when you find out about this mind body TMS world. Just kind of bring us along and tell a story.
well, yeah, it starts at a very young age for me, really, Dan. My mum, bless her, she used to say that I came out of the womb worrying. Um, Yeah. So I was maybe 7 years old when I began to get what I know now is tinnitus. And I just you couldn't understand it at 7 years old. I was like, what's
Yeah,
this ringing in my ears that goes away when there's noise around, but when it's quiet at night, there's things going on.
sure.
And then when I was doing some exams around 14, 15, the migraines hit. I had several huge clapping migraines in and around the stress of the exams. Um, yeah, and then I was about 19 and my mum remarried and my stepdad passed away,
Oh,
which I
wow.
found really difficult to deal with. Shoved my emotions all away, and I began to have an ear problem, which nobody could explain what was going on, like a constant pressure feeling in my ear. And then going later on, I joined the ambulance service when I was about 25. And a couple of years into the ambulance service, I started getting leg pain. Um, Went down the medical route where I was stretching, I was doing physio, I even had an MRI. And I was 29 at the time, and they said, "Oh, you've got C-spine degeneration," which scared the hell out of me. Like, why have I got leg pain with C-spine degeneration? It's really far away. Even then, it didn't make sense to me.
Sure.
And then I went on this 2009 until about 2016, this onslaught of a journey of physical therapies, um, yoga, touching the spiritual stuff because the physical stuff was just not working, and the spiritual stuff became even worse for me. Um, not to anybody who's into the spiritual stuff, if that's working for you, then it is absolutely fine. But it didn't work for me because it just, in a roundabout way, it made me kind of worry more, hyperfixate more on my physical body,
Sure.
and yeah, and then I gave up around about January 2016 with all the physical stuff. I moved away from it, and I had 6 months of it was really bad. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of depression.
Hmm.
There was lots of anxiety, and then I happened to be browsing YouTube, and I came across this guy called John Sarno,
Hmm.
and he did a is it John Stossel's 2020 or something
Yes.
like that. This little
Sure.
20-minute video. And I watched it, and there was a lady that had been in a wheelchair with plantar fasciitis or something. And it was me. That was me. That was what I was going through. As far as I consider, I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. So, as most people would do, I researched him. I bought everything he'd written, read everything he'd written,
Sure.
and yeah, and that brought me to around about 2017, and I was still struggling. I was still struggling. You'll come into the picture in a second, actually. Um, so I bought Steve Ozanich's Great Pain Deception,
Hmm.
the black covered book that a lot of
Yeah.
people might know, which is quite a deep delve into TMS.
Mhm.
And I'd read that book from page cover to cover in possibly about 6 hours. And having been a marathon runner in my 20s and not being able to run since I was about 29 because pain would just flare up
Sure.
within hours, I decided to put my trainers on for the first time in up to 10 years. And I went for a 50-minute run. It's a long way for somebody who's not ran for a long time.
And it's a
And I
long
came
way for
back
somebody who's in pain. Sure.
and I came back from that run, and lo and behold, you know what? I didn't get pain. No, I didn't get pain. Now it came back. It came back a few days later. But for me, that was overwhelming evidence that,
Hmm.
all right, so I didn't get pain immediately like I would normally do. So I think there's something in this. There's
Sure.
definitely something in this with me. Um, so in the preceding 6 months after that, I got to a point where I was mostly pain free, believe it or not. Um, I discovered your videos. I think you were on about 50 videos in when I
Maybe
discovered you. I don't know if that sounds about right for
I don't.
2017.
I don't remember
Something like
exactly
that.
when we got started, but I really didn't start the daily videos until March of 2019. So
Yeah.
17, I don't know how much I had out there. Some, but not a lot.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, I know you had another channel as well, and I was a
Yeah,
member
I
and
had a Dan
subscribed to
Buglio
that other channel.
channel. I had a Dan Buglio channel, and then I moved over to Pain Free You
Yeah,
in
yeah,
2019.
yeah. So trying to just distill the story, the timeline a little bit further. Um, it never quite went away fully. So then, unfortunately, I got into the fixing zone. I called it the fixing zone.
Mhm.
So then I started delving into journaling, and I started delving into somatic tracking, somatic work. I started trying to delve into meditation. And again, this is a great caveat for people who are out there who are using them and they're working, carry on. But they didn't work for me, Dan. They made me a lot worse. They made me very hypervigilant, hyperfixated, and made the problem quite a lot worse. So obviously, listening to you and your very, very simple message, albeit quite hard to actually,
To do. Yeah.
employ. I was like, oh, I've got to stop all this. But man, wasn't I addicted to self-help. It was it was like trying to give. I'm not an alcoholic or anything like that, but it was like trying to give up something that I was addicted to. And
Yeah.
yeah, I got to a point where it was maybe 2020 where I'd given up on all of that stuff, and I was quite happily. I'd given all my books away. I was quite happily doing all the gym work. I got back into the gym after so many years of not training, and oh, it was like it was so good to start moving again without fear of moving. And then the pandemic hit, and like everybody, we all got locked down. I didn't actually get pain, um, but it was quite stressful. My job, I'm an EMT on the ambulance service,
Sure.
so yeah, for the
Oh,
first few months of the pandemic, it was, is this thing going to kill me? You know?
because you're
Then
out there
I
taking
kind
people to hospital and everything else. Yeah.
of, yeah, yeah. But then, that period of time passed. And I found myself, I think it was about 2022, where I'd been on my own for 13 years and I was so lonely. I was bitingly lonely. It was really difficult for me. I'd moved away from home as well to do my job. And my family were all like 40 miles away, 60 Ks or whatever that is. And I met somebody in the gym, um, and I started a relationship, and um, it didn't work out. There was, without, I'm not going to go into any details at all, but it didn't work out. And maybe about a month later, oh, the leg pain came back again with a vengeance. So
Wow.
there's obviously some links. For me, there was links there to something. I don't want to label it. I don't know what it was. Um, and then the leg pain came back, and it was there for months. And I don't really remember when I was on your coaching. I'd got a knee injury that I was nursing as well. I'd really badly sprained my knee, and it took ages to heal up. But I think it was because TMS infiltrated in it. That's what I really believe,
Right.
because it was way beyond the time when it should have healed up, and it was still swollen and it was still hurting. And then, again, I employed the same attitude of, no, I know what this is. This is not injured anymore. This has been 4 months since this is um, uh, since this happened. It should be healed by now. So I slowly but surely got my confidence back with my lifting, and lo and behold, maybe 4 weeks later, the swelling had gone down, and the knee had gone back to normal. Um, yeah, and in that period of time, about the time that I was on the coaching, I did have another very short relationship, which was quite difficult for me. Nobody's fault at all. I was in a really bad place. The person lived quite far away, and it didn't work out. And when that ended, just a couple of days after, I'd never had a back spasm, Dan, and I got the worst back spasm. I think I reached out to you actually. I got the worst back spasm, to the point where I rang my boss saying I couldn't come in. I was crying on the phone, and he
Yeah.
actually sent me an ambulance.
Oh,
He sent one of my colleagues to come and pick me up, and I was off to the hospital. But I already knew what it was,
sure.
and that took a long time to shift. That took oof, 3 months before.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, Dan. What I did was, um, 3 days after the back spasm, in a lot of pain, I knew what it was. I knew that I hadn't hurt myself. I was back in the gym lifting.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't silly, but I was moving. Within 3 days, I was back moving. I was doing air squats and air deadlifts and all the stuff, and it was painful. But I knew there's nothing wrong here, so I
Right.
carried on and I carried on and I carried on. And a few months later, the pain had gone.
Okay.
So this leads me to maybe about 2023, July 2023. I met a wonderful girl who's now my partner, who I live with. We're just doing a house up now, hence the unpainted walls at the back. Um, the pain had mostly gone away,
Okay.
but it had been replaced by quite severe anxiety
Interesting.
instead. So after the short relationship with the person who lived quite far away, I went into quite a deep cycle of anxiety, because in my head, I was never going to meet anybody again. It was that bad for me. I was convinced that I'm not going to meet anybody again. That was my last chance, and I know it wasn't my last chance.
Right.
Um, but unfortunately, you know, I lived on my own for 13 years, and I never realised that previous relationships had done quite a bit of damage to me, and I went into quite a deep cycle of anxiety when I went into my relationship with my new partner. Um, Luckily for me, she's a clinical psychologist, and um,
Right.
I'll break the story just for a second, just to tell you that she's on a doctorate in clinical psychology at the moment, and a physio came in and introduced this type of work to her on a clinical doctorate in a very prestigious university, the Liverpool University in England, and the links were podcasts to Howard Schubernair's work.
Hmm.
So that isn't that amazing that they're teaching people who are going to be clinical psychologists
Right.
this mind body work. It's there, it's being taught now in universities. I
That's
don't know whether
brilliant.
you've heard that before.
I've not. It's
Yeah.
more of a ground roots, spreading of information, but
Yeah, and
um,
she was name dropping, Peter O'Sullivan, Lorimer Mosley, Howard Schubernair,
yeah.
these people who are quite, in the sort of pain world, and how pain isn't injury a lot of the time. So I was like, God, this is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to tell Dan when I speak to him
Yeah, I just
about
had
that.
I just had a situation where somebody that worked with me a long time ago who got better had a husband who was having some pain and he went to a physio in the Netherlands. And the physio says, you know, sometimes it's not physical. And the physio mentioned my name. And the husband was like, I've heard Dan's voice as my wife listened to Dan's videos over and over again.
Yeah,
So it is
yeah,
interesting though how it is slowly getting into the medical world, um, and in the pain world. So I think at some point there's going to be a tipping point where most people professionally, medically are aware of it. Whether they embrace it is another story, but it's great to hear that they're
mm,
beginning to teach it
yeah,
in the psychiatric schooling, which is wonderful.
yeah, yeah. And my girlfriend came along with lower back pain, and I was like,
We'll get that
no.
fixed.
So yeah, and after having a chat to her and everything, it was you know probably mind body and yeah, and she was yeah, she listened, and I was like, you don't have to worry about it. It will go away of its own accord, and yeah, it went away. You know.
Awesome.
So yeah, back to my little story, and then I do want to give some pointers as well, Dan, as to how I
Please.
did finally, sort of get to the point where I am now. Um, I lost my mum
Sorry
in
about that.
October, no, sorry, November 2 years ago.
Sorry.
Um, the day after, not a severe back spasm, but I had back pain for about a month. I did, but I knew what it was, and I grieved. My girlfriend was just absolutely amazing through that with me. And then just last October, I lost my dad as well. So
Wow.
I had a double whammy in 10 months of and a little bit of back pain then as well. So that leads me to what I did basically. I followed your advice, and kudos to I know Jim as well, Jim Prusak.
Sure.
I I I I followed both of your advice basically on this. Leave it alone, and it was so hard for me to leave it alone because I'd been a fixer for so long, and the when I realised that and this included the anxiety as well, um, that the more I left it alone, the quicker it started to go. And the more I meddled with it, the more my system gave me of the anxiety and of the little bits of residual pain that
Right.
were there. So what I did was I would like you say, I would get up in the morning. The first thing you notice is what's going on in your body and in your mind. You can't help
Normal.
it.
It's
Don't
normal.
beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up for that. You're never going to stop that. But your response to it is where your power lies.
Hmm.
So my response to it was continuously, I know what this is. I'd have it here, wherever it was, whether it was pain or anxiety, and I
Hmm.
would still go and do my day. I would carry this with me. I wouldn't push it away.
Right.
I wouldn't try to stamp it down. I knew what it was. I gave it a little bit of respect, if you will, and I carried on and I carried on. And the first things to drop back down with the aches and the pains.
Sure.
Um, and then the anxiety was a lot more sticky.
Mm.
And to be totally transparent now, it's not completely gone for me. However, again, with this sort of stuff, as you know, Dan, it takes ages sometimes for the brain to catch up with what you're trying to do. And while you're, if you will, uploading a new program of behavior, the old program's like shouting away at you. It's like an analogy. It's not an original analogy. I think it was Sally Winston who's kind of works in the anxiety field. Was
Okay.
if you imagine you're trying to watch a TV and you're on channel one, and in another room there's something on channel three that's annoying you, that's bleeding over, but you just can't quite get it out. But you don't need to. You just can concentrate on channel one. Don't meddle with channel three because your conscious awareness is on channel one, and this is where my I consistently put my attention. And but the brain obviously is dead habitual,
Hmm.
and it kept going back. But I brought it back, and it was multiple times a day that I brought it back. But it wasn't. I didn't bring it back in an effortful, jarring, grinding way. It would be a simple acknowledgement of, oh, I'm back there again. Where do I want to be?
Hmm.
But there's this lag effect that a lot of people don't understand, and quite rightly, people want to get out of pain and anxiety, and they want to get out of it quick. But you know, again, Sally Winston, she says that putting effort in the outside world is really fruitful, but when we try to turn inward into the inner world and put effort into the inner world, it's not, it doesn't work. It has the opposite effect,
Right.
and it does jar against a lot of the stuff out there of the you've got to be doing something, you've got to be working at it, you've got to be doing somatic tracking all the time, and you've said a million times, and I understand this now, that you don't need to, what's the word, you don't need to make your brain break down these neural pathways. You don't even have to think about the neural
Yeah.
pathways. You
Correct.
stop using them over a period of time and practicing this, letting this, whatever it is, be there while you carry on your life, and it will go away eventually.
Yeah.
It's as close to I can say as a guarantee. If you do it like this, if you are zoned in on it all the time, how are you ever going to get your brain to go, oh, I'm safe here with this?
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, right, how bad can I feel today? Rather than I'm going to have to do something to make myself feel better. It was like I would get up in the morning and go, how bad can I feel today? And continue on my day, continue to go to work,
Hmm.
continue to have a relationship, and continue to do all of the stuff that I love doing whilst this is here, because I
Sure.
know what I'm doing is this is going to go away eventually, and it did, it did. And when people say, "Well, what do you do? What's this?" I would say it's a shift in attitude. Um, so the methods, what people use, I would say they're a tool to shift your attitude, not a technique to get rid of. A tool to shift your attitude,
Hmm.
not a technique to get rid of. So if you're using somatic tracking and then looking here, has it worked? It's not the right way to do it. And again, it's so difficult because people really cling on to techniques. It's like, well, this person said I've got to do this, so I'm going to have to do it, otherwise I'm not going to get out of pain. Our nervous system's so beautiful and intelligent,
Hmm.
and it doesn't need prompts. It's like breaking your leg and fixating on your leg, trying to get it to heal quicker, and trying to get the pain to go away by concentrating on it. I believe it's the nervous system is the same. If we
Sure.
leave it alone, it will regulate itself with hands off without having to meddle with it and meddle and meddle and meddle.
Yeah.
And the way I did that is the aforementioned things. I got out and I lived. I didn't hide away. I never hid away, and it was painful, both physically, mentally, emotionally, because I had whammies. I had anxiety and pain at the same time, quite a lot of the time,
Yeah.
and then it would fluctuate and go away. And I'm still on this learning curve of leaving it alone, because my
Hmm.
brain tends to try and go to the fixating, I'll fix it, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm a million times better than I was. My life was coloured with uh, anxiety
Right.
for 2 years. Every day would be a slog. But even in there, I knew that I could get out of it,
Hmm.
and I knew there was just enough hope, just enough of something there that allowed me to continue. And cultivate this attitude rather than learn a technique to get rid of. And yeah, I sit here now. I'm pain free. Very rarely do I get any pain. And
Right.
if I do, I laugh at it because I know what it is, unless it's an injury. I'm not silly.
Yeah.
Um, but I laugh at it. I'm not scared of lifting. I've completely lost my fear of lifting at work and different being different positions and
Mhm.
thinking I need to do certain exercises to keep it up so I don't relapse back into pain or anything. Um,
Beautiful.
I don't care what my back looks like on an MRI. Well, I haven't had one for years anyway, but I don't actually care what it looks like. Um, and because I've had enough evidence for me personally to know that the majority of aches and pains that I get as a human being
That's this.
are stress related, are because of a slightly sensitized brain. My brain is a little bit more busy than most people's, and I have to give myself just a little bit more allowance and awareness of that. Um, I don't know whether I'm ever going to get to the point where my brain is very calm, and I don't overthink things, but that's also okay. It maybe, who knows? But for now,
I don't think,
I'm going to work with what I've got.
yeah, I don't think that's a goal that we want to strive to, because then that comes from a place of judgment, that my brain is
Yeah,
too sensitive, it's too overthinking, it's judgment. And so that's never useful. One of the things I'll just observe is you said, the more you meddled with your symptoms, the worse they got or the longer they stuck around. Because meddling with symptoms, trying to fix symptoms, basically says to ourselves, I have a problem. I have to get rid of this problem. Leaving it be, to use your language, says, I'm okay. I don't have to
yeah.
do anything with it. And I just recorded a video, before we got started, whether or not perfectionism speeds up recovery. The answer is no.
It's
Definitely
got
not.
no place for me. I was a deep perfectionist. Still am a little bit. Like I play guitar quite a lot, so
Cool.
perfectionism. But with perfectionism, if you're gonna do this, I mean, it sounds a bit counterintuitive. If you're gonna do this work, do it a bit shit and poorly. Pardon my language. Do it a bit crap. Don't do it with perfectionism. If you want a day off, have a day off. You can come back to it the day after.
And
And like I was saying, just that there is no real work. There's rather than a list of to dos, there's probably a list of don't dos. There's a list of things not to do rather than a list of things to do.
right.
And again, that was really helpful for me when I framed it like that. Of oh right, there's a bunch of things that I shouldn't do rather than a bunch of things that I should do to get rid of pain and anxiety. Out of the two, Dan, the anxiety's been more of a tricky monster. Um,
Stop
the
calling it a
physical,
monster. Stop calling
yeah,
it
yeah.
a monster. No,
The
because
tricky,
that conveys to your brain monster as
yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to
And here's me
an
still learning.
experience.
Yeah, here's me still learning. Yeah, I'm humble, more than humble enough to know that I'm still going through a process of learning how to accept this for what it is, which is just brain sensations,
Yeah, and,
more than
and the
anything.
anxiety is yet just another mind-body symptom
Yeah,
coming
they're
from a
all one and
brain
the same.
coming from a brain perceiving danger. That's all
Yeah,
anxiety is. It's an
yeah,
experience. It's not who you are. It's not a monster. And it is something that you can, like you said, it's there. I'm going to take it with me. And you do. And you're learning that, but maybe reframing it as not necessarily a monster, but just a unpleasant
yeah.
sensation, unpleasant thought pattern, but doesn't define me, doesn't stop me from living and engaging in life.
No,
Live more,
no.
fix less, right? Same with anxiety.
Absolutely. Live more, fix less. I like that. Yeah, so the anxiety is something that I'm still working on. Like I said, it's it was very easy for me to, and I think it was because just because of I'd listened to your stuff, Jim's stuff, other people's books and stuff, it became quite easy for me to, when pain was there, to actually acknowledge it and move on.
Yeah, I know what that is.
But
Sure.
but, but like, yeah, but with, well, as we know with this mind body stuff, it's almost as though your brain's like, he's not listening to that anymore. Ooh, what should we give him? Because we still don't feel safe. Oh, let's give him anxiety, see if that works. Oh, and that worked for a while. That did work for a while. I became really scared for a
I,
while.
I
And
kind of view, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, before I realized it was just another variation, another presentation of this mind body disorder, this pain and this anxiety were just the same thing, but just presenting themselves in different ways.
Yeah. So I believe a brain that is looking out for danger oftentimes will find physical things and create physical pains, other sensations, other digestive, immune, you name it, all sorts of physical symptoms. But once you have been very successful at conveying to the brain, my back's fine, my leg's fine, and you've done a very good job conveying it physically, I'm okay. Your brain is still looking out for danger. It's still looking out for you. That's its job. And so what's the result? Anxiety. Okay,
Yeah.
Jonathan doesn't have a bad back. Got it. But let's stay hyper vigilant. And that's just the brain doing its job. And the result is
Mm,
oftentimes, and it's very common once the physical symptoms go away, for people to say, wow, this anxiety hit me. I don't know where that came from. It's the same thing, just a different set of physical sensations of anxiety, as well as the resulting mental,
mm,
you know, anxious thoughts. It's the same thing. You don't have to view it as a separate monster that you have to tackle differently. Put
yeah.
anxiety in the same bucket as the physical symptoms as something that you don't need to have a lot of concern about. And I had a story of some woman who had 37 years of back pain. And once she successfully resolved the back pain, she said the anxiety hit her like a ton of bricks.
Mm,
But she had the
yeah.
intuition and was aware of the fact that it's the same thing. So she treated the anxiety like she treated her back pain. And within several weeks, the anxiety went away as well because she treated it
Mm,
the same. This is not a big problem. I do not have a mental illness. This is not a mental health condition. This is an experience I'm going through created by a brain perceiving danger, and the anxiety resolved. So
yeah.
something to ponder, but if you can put it in the same bucket as your back pain, which you're not concerned with at all, the anxiety may fit
Yeah.
into that as
Mm,
well.
yeah. Yeah. I think it was a perfect storm. It was that what you just said. It was so pain went away, anxiety started to rise. It was the couple of relationships. It was parents dying,
Yes, the
and if there's
grief.
anything that's going to make a brain feel scared, it's losing your parents and losing the prospect of relationships as well. Even though I'm in a relationship now, lose the prospect of losing relationships.
Hmm.
And my lovely girlfriend, the clinical psychologist, we've lived together for a couple of years now, and she says it's clear that a lot of your troubles lie in relational stuff. Not to get sort of in the bogs of psychology, because again, I've not even done anything about that. I've allowed that to be there, and gone, well, this is just a part of what I've got going on.
Sure.
It doesn't have to define me.
You're
And I
being
can
a human.
rewrite, I can flip this script, I can rewrite it,
Yeah,
basically.
you're being a normal human.
Absolutely, just
Relationships
normal.
can be difficult. Relationships, ups, downs, all that stuff. So there's nothing to
Yeah,
fix. You've
yeah,
experienced things relationally. Okay. And
yeah.
there's some wounds, there's some scars, but it doesn't have to define your future. Uh,
No, no.
but that's all part of being a human. So I'm glad you are accepting that and not viewing that as this major thing that you have to figure out and fix.
No, no, there's nothing that needs to be figured out. There never was, Dan. And I wish I'd sort of discovered that about 15 years ago. when I first got the leg pain. No, it was longer than that. It was about 18 years ago now.
Yeah.
There was nothing. This stuff wasn't around though. In like
Sarno
it
was,
was
but it
the
wasn't, the
yeah.
internet wasn't around.
No, the books were out there, but I had no idea. John Sarno's books weren't readily on the bookshelf. You
Yeah.
know,
Very
because
little
they were
information when you got
niche.
started. Same like when I went through my whole journey. I was going
Yeah,
to the bookstore. There's no internet. And if there was
yeah,
nothing on it relative to this.
yeah. I mean, maybe John Sarno's books were on the shelves in the US, but they certainly weren't in the UK.
Yeah,
It was all physio stuff, and so obviously that's the route what I did, and that was kind of my background a little bit as well, having done that sort of stuff at college.
cool.
But then yeah, what a change, and what a change in where I am now, really. Um, from where I was even just a few years ago. Lots and lots of ups and downs, but yeah, I would. People ask me, if people was to say to me, are you recovered? I don't care anymore. I absolutely don't care, um, because there's nothing to recover from
Yeah,
particularly. I don't believe anyway. There's anything to recover from,
right.
um, because there's nothing wrong with my body. I would even say there's nothing wrong with my brain.
It's
It's
not a,
just is
it's doing
doing
its
it's
job.
doing its job.
And it's our job to convey to the brain, I'm really not in danger. So I don't need the anxiety. I don't need the physical pains. I'm really okay. That's our job.
Yeah,
Teach the brain
yeah,
that we're okay. And as a result, when the brain buys that message and has learned the lesson, it will turn off the symptoms. It will also turn off the anxiety. Now, that doesn't mean it'll never come back. Life
mm,
gets lifey, things happen. We're going to get anxious. We may have, like you experienced, the recurrence of back pain when you lost your parents. That's not a problem. That's not a failure. That's just being a
no,
human. Your brain reserves the right to protect you at any time with physical symptoms or anxiety or mental health challenges, whatever, because it's doing its job. We want it to. The key is clarity. I know what that is. I know how it works. And so therefore I don't need to panic about a warning from the brain. We assess. Did I fall off a bridge and break my leg? No. Okay. Then the pain is likely TMS, and there's ways of assessing. And we don't have to panic about symptoms once we understand how they work. So I'm thrilled for you. You've been through a lot, but it sounds like you've really learned a lot of the lessons and have
yeah,
applied them into your life. And as a result, you're leading a pretty darn good life right now.
and it will continue because I don't think there's any room for complacency. I could easily start going back into old habits, but I won't. And that's a part of looking after yourself mentally, emotionally, as well as looking after yourself physically. And those are hard lessons learned. The biggest lesson I think was from my mum dying. That and I got the back pain, and I knew straight away that was a signal that I needed to look after myself and not be hard on myself,
Right.
not blame myself, not be critical,
Hmm.
leave the perfectionism at home. And I managed to actually do that instead of the opposite, which would be the old Jonathan. And I managed to give myself a lot of grace and a lot of room. And do you know what? I listened to the pain. I allowed it to be there to
Right.
speak, and and my brain to go, I don't feel safe. So this is what's happening. This is what I'm giving you as a signal.
Hmm.
And I comforted myself. I allowed people around me to comfort me.
Sure.
I grieved. I've never grieved for anybody dying, Dan, and people have died in my life. And it was the first time I allowed myself to properly grieve. And it was a very safe environment with my partner as well.
Right.
So endless thanks to Beck. Um, for putting up with me.
Putting up with you. Nice way
Yeah,
to put it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, a great journey, and I really hope it's going to be beneficial for people to stop the fixing and hyper focusing and getting them to have the confidence to actually, in spite of pain or despite pain, whatever the correct word is, the better word is, to go out there and go for that walk even if you hurt, and don't don't be over hard on yourself. No, none of this is failure. There's no point you can that this is failure if you get an uptick of pain, non-pain symptoms or anxiety. It's just the brain checking in and going, "Are you sure we're safe?"
mhm,
And then you're, through your actions, maybe your words, but definitely through your actions, to demonstrate that I'm safe because I'm carrying on, in even though this pain is coming with me for a bit, or this
right.
symptom is coming with me for a bit, I'm carrying on. So I hope that helps people. I genuinely hope that
I
helps
believe it.
your
I
community.
believe it will. You've done a really nice job of explaining not just your story, but the mindset which you have adopted, which has already served you quite well and will continue to serve you quite well. You mentioned you don't want to become complacent. I don't think you need to do anything new. You're not going to forget these lessons which you've
No,
learned, right?
no,
And so I believe we've recovered when we no longer fall into panic in the presence of symptoms or even anxiety. It's a recovery from fear
yeah,
more so than symptoms or
yeah,
anxiety.
yeah,
When you can get a
massively,
symptom and go, I know what that is, it'll pass. You're done. It doesn't, the presence of symptoms doesn't matter because you know what they are. You said I call them out for what they are, and then I go on with conveying to the brain. All right. So that's going to carry you through the rest of your life. The only reason it's going to kick you in the butt is if you forget the lessons, and I don't think you will because they were very, very powerful lessons that you've accepted and believe, and
yeah.
you're even spreading the word, wanting to tell your story here and telling other people about your journey. And hey, you should check out this mind body stuff. And
Well, to
you're
that
not gonna,
end,
go
just
ahead.
to mention, and I don't actually know whether I'm going to do anything with this or not. I'm currently on my PRT course with it was just affiliated with the pain psychology center. I don't know whether I'm going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
It just interests me, and I'm just like, maybe I could help people. Certainly integrate it with work, my practice at
Mhm.
work. Um, but just watch this space. I might not, probably not, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I just thought I have to do this because I think it feels right. So I'm going to go get a little coaching qualification and
Cool.
just see where it goes. See where it goes.
All right.
Look,
Awesome.
Dan, it's been great, mate. Thank you so much for having me on and
Hey,
letting me
Jonathan, it's
ramble
been
on
a lot
for
of fun. It's good catching up
almost an
with
hour.
you because I know we spoke a couple of years back and worked together. And so, um, good stuff.
And the coaching for
I'm
anybody who's ifing and ahhing on whether they want to go and do the coaching or not, it was really invaluable for me to uh, get to see Dan multiple times a week with, I don't know how many coaching sessions you offer now, but multiple times a week,
forward.
to just, and I was only on there for a short while, but it was enough for me to go to get my attitude right,
Mhm.
and so to go away and stop fixing myself.
Cool.
And on that note,
A real pleasure to catch up with you again. Thank you for sharing your story. This will probably be out in the next several days. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel, Facebook, and you will see it come up. You're welcome to, read along in the comments, and if you'd like to answer or comment in there, feel
yeah,
free, but don't feel
I'm
obligated.
not on. I don't have a YouTube account, so I won't be able to do that, unfortunately.
You may not be
Um,
able to comment, but you should be able to watch it.
oh, I can watch. I can definitely watch it, but I won't be able to comment. So if anybody is expecting me to sort of answer, unfortunately, I won't be able to. I do
Okay.
apologise in advance for that.
I think
But
you've done a
great,
good
Dan.
job of explaining it, your journey, your path, your mindset, which I think is key. And so I
Yeah,
really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And if I can ever do anything for you, you reach out to me. and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, John.
Appreciate it, Don.
I
Thank you.
appreciate
Cheers,
you.
mate. Thanks.